She thought I was too busy with bolts to notice. One problem. I'm not stupid.
For half a year, I found myself standing alone in my garage every night, surrounded by the scent of motor oil and metal, questioning how my wife Nicole had suddenly become busier than a surgical intern. Late nights at the office, mysterious weekend conferences, never-ending client dinners. On paper, I was the kind of husband who trusted his wife unconditionally. In reality, I was either painfully naive or incredibly skilled at ignoring the obvious, while elbow-deep in carburetors and timing belts. Then came Thursday. I was buried up to my forearms in the guts of a Honda when my phone buzzed with a text. Nicole. Working late again? Dinner with a client? Don't wait up. The heart emoji didn't feel like affection. It read more like a smokescreen, a desperate attempt to cover tracks with forced sweetness. When a spouse tacks hearts onto a lie, it's not romance, it's damage control. And don't wait up? That's just code for I'm somewhere you wouldn't approve of. Now, I'm not oblivious. I'd seen the clues, each one small, but together, highly suspicious. A sudden drawer full of lingerie I'd never seen her wear. Her phone, once freely accessible, now locked tighter than a bank vault. An intense new gym routine 4 days a week. But she'd come home without a drop of sweat or a single hair out of place. When a woman supposedly works late every night but strolls through the door smelling of high-end men's cologne instead of her usual perfume, a man would have to be willfully blind not to question it. Sure, I could have gone nuclear, tracked her down, blown up her phone, stormed her office like some insecure maniac, but that's not me. I didn't build a profitable auto shop by making rash decisions. I play the long game. I stay cool. So instead, I texted back, "Hope the Lobster's good. Tell Brandon to double-check his investment portfolio." See, 2 weeks before, I'd found a receipt in her car. A high-end steakhouse. $247 for dinner, 2 entrees, and wine. Not a business group, not a team dinner, just 2 people. The waiter had even left a little handwritten note on the slip. "Hope you two had a wonderful evening." And Brandon? He was the name I kept hearing from her lately. Brandon says this ad campaign is fire. Brandon's going through a divorce. I'd never met the guy, but I could recognize his texting habits better than my own mother's. Always mid-afternoon, always when she was wrapping up something important. The bit about the stock portfolio? Total bluff. I had no clue if Brandon even owned stocks, but it sounded ominous, just threatening enough to spook a guilty conscience. It worked immediately. 3 seconds later, the screen lit up, not with a text, but a full-blown phone call. That kind of panicked impulse call people make when they realize the walls are closing in. I let it ring a couple times, then picked up, calm as ever. "Hey there," I said lightly. Her voice was shaky. What does that mean?" she stammered. And in the background, bingo. I heard a man's voice, Brandon's, yelling, "What did he say?" The sound of a secret imploding in real time. I smiled for the first time in months. "Just checking in to say I hope you're enjoying your dinner, sweetheart. You know how I worry. And if Brandon's around, tell him I hope he's keeping his portfolio diversified. Markets are volatile these days." She hung up. No rebuttal, no cover story, just silence. And the cold, mechanical click of a call ending when someone's been cornered and knows it. There I stood in my grease-stained garage, and for the first time in a long while, I genuinely laughed. A real, full-bellied, cathartic laugh. Because that's when I finally understood. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't losing my grip. I was simply married to someone who believed I was too dull, too preoccupied with spark plugs and oil changes to notice her lies, but I notice everything. I just wait for the right moment to act. To the outside world, we looked like the golden couple. Coordinated Halloween costumes, charming holiday cards, a picture-perfect Instagram account that made our friends jealous. People called us relationship goals, as if we were some power couple brand. Nicole thrived in marketing, always in polished suits that cost more than my rent, heels sharp enough to stab steel. I owned a local auto shop, Jason's Motors. My daily uniform was grease-streaked overalls and hands calloused from engine work. On the surface, we were an odd match, but somehow it had worked, or at least that's what we let everyone believe. We'd first met at a backyard barbecue 7 years ago. She liked my humor. I was mesmerized by her confidence and beauty. Everyone around us saw the chemistry. Fast forward. We dated, I saved for 3 months to buy her a ring. We got married in a ceremony her parents footed the bill for. We moved into a decent suburban house, opened joint bank accounts, and eventually found ourselves sitting on a therapist's couch when her temper grew too sharp. And through it all, I kept telling myself this life was worth holding on to. Until it wasn't. From an outsider's point of view, we looked like we were living the dream. Our online profiles were a curated gallery of tropical vacations, candlelit anniversary dinners, and filtered smiles that radiated bliss. But what those polished snapshots didn't show was the truth. How our actual conversations had quietly eroded around year 4, slowly replaced by sterile exchanges about utility bills, grocery lists, and weekend chores. The laughter that once filled our home was long gone. In public, Nicole would roll her eyes when I tried to be funny. In private, I found myself sleeping on the couch more often than in our bed. Our intimacy, reduced to obligatory check-ins, hollow of desire. 8 months before everything unraveled, I noticed the shift. She stopped laughing at my jokes, not just chuckling less, but actively tuning me out. When your spouse no longer finds you amusing, it usually means one of two things. They're emotionally drowning or they've already detached and moved on. And Nicole? She had too much energy, too much pep in her step to be struggling with depression. What she did have were a growing number of business trips, more private phone calls in locked rooms, and a new habit of shielding her screen from my view like she was protecting national security secrets. Here's what they don't teach you in marriage counseling. When infidelity is involved, the smartest first move is often no move at all, at least not right away. Most guys explode. Rage, accusations, desperate confrontations, and in doing so, they hand their cheating partner the perfect narrative. He's paranoid, unstable, controlling. I refused to hand her that script. If this marriage was collapsing, it would do so on my terms, backed by facts, not suspicion. I'm a mechanic by trade. Diagnosing hidden problems is my specialty. You don't rip an engine apart without understanding what's wrong. You test, you observe, you verify, and I applied the same methodology to my marriage. So I transformed into an amateur investigator. Not the glamorous kind you see on TV, but the sad, cereal-eating at 2 a.m. kind who pores over credit card statements while trying to ignore the gnawing pit in his stomach. I started small, just paying attention. The kinds of things I'd subconsciously ignored for years, because facing them meant admitting something I didn't want to believe, that my marriage was already on life support. The first pieces of real evidence came in the form of receipts, physical proof Nicole carelessly left in her car. One was from an upscale steakhouse, on a Tuesday no less, the same night she texted that she was staying late for a client call. Another was from a boutique hotel, totaling over $400, supposedly during a weekend work conference in Chicago. I remember that trip clearly because I had driven her to the airport myself. I watched her breeze through security with her roller bag, all while I played the dutiful husband role to perfection, unaware I was being played in return. The most outrageous receipt? A little blue bag from Tiffany's, $850. I've never spent that kind of money on jewelry for her, not because I didn't want to, but because whenever I suggested something sparkly for her birthday, she always requested practical gifts, new appliances, or home gadgets. Apparently, when Brandon made the offer, diamonds became romantic instead of frivolous. Then I started analyzing her social media posts more closely. Her so-called business trip photos were suspiciously generic. Hotel lobbies, empty conference rooms, vague captions like, "Grind never stops." Never any people, never co-workers. Just solitary snapshots meant to suggest productivity. Out of curiosity, I reverse image searched one of the pictures. Turns out the Seattle work trip image was pulled from a Napa Valley resort website. Another so-called team dinner photo was taken straight from the homepage of an upscale restaurant. She wasn't documenting her life. She was staging a lie, catfishing her own followers. The final straw, the smoking tool, arrived by pure chance. Nicole and I shared an iPad, originally set up for syncing grocery lists and managing household bills. One night, as I was browsing through some emails, a message pinged through with the subject, "Can't wait for tomorrow night." It was from Brandon Henderson. Curious, I opened it. What I read made my skin crawl. It was like flipping through the pages of a cheap romance novel, except the leading man was sleeping with my wife. "Can you bring that black dress again? I can't stop thinking about how you looked in it last week." Marcus at the restaurant asked if we were celebrating something, and I almost told him yes, celebrating the fact that you exist. But I just said it was our anniversary. He gave us complimentary champagne. We should go back. 3 more paragraphs followed, syrupy with pet names, inside jokes, and plans for more secret rendezvous. All while I was at home, rotating tires and calculating the grocery budget. I took screenshots of everything, saved them to a private cloud drive she had no access to. I even printed hard copies and stored them in a locked drawer at work, right next to my torque wrenches. I began meticulously organizing everything into a spreadsheet. Dates, locations, transaction amounts, emails, texts, color-coded, green for confirmed deceit, yellow for suspicious behavior, red for undeniable proof of betrayal. By the third week, that spreadsheet looked like a battlefield of betrayal. So many red cells it resembled something out of a crime scene analysis. But still, I said nothing, because timing, like engine timing, is critical. You don't fire until the system is primed for detonation. So I kept playing the role, cooked dinner, asked about her day, smiled through her lies, while calculating exactly how much of our joint savings I could legally reroute before initiating a clean break. So when that Thursday text came through, another working late client dinner, I already knew the truth. I knew where she was, who she was with, and even guessed what she was ordering based on the restaurant receipts I'd collected. That's when I sent the message. Enjoy the lobster. Tell Brandon to review his investment portfolio. And then I waited. I'd been quietly building the fuse, and finally it was time to watch the explosion. Finding Brandon's wife was embarrassingly easy. I typed Brandon Henderson Marketing into Facebook, and boom, there he was. Professionally attractive in that generic way, wearing a polo that probably cost more than my weekly groceries, smiling with too many teeth. His relationship status said, married to Amanda Henderson. I clicked on Amanda's profile and felt bad immediately. Her bio read, coffee cats and cleaning up my husband's messes. HR manager, probably tired. That probably tired part got me. That's humor you develop when life's been beating you down. Her profile picture showed a woman in her mid-30s with dark hair and a ponytail, holding a coffee mug that said, I can't adult today, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt. She had kind eyes. She looked like someone living parallel to me in this nightmare, without knowing we were in the same horror movie. I debated whether to message her. Maybe she didn't know, and telling her would blow up her life. But she deserved to know her husband was spending their money on hotel rooms and jewelry for my wife. So I sent, Hi Amanda, I know this is weird, but I'm married to one of your husband's co-workers, and I think we need to talk. This isn't spam, and I'm not crazy. Can we meet for coffee? Her response came after those 3 dots appeared and disappeared 5 times. Tomorrow, Murphy's Diner on 5th, 10 a.m. Come alone and bring proof. Short, direct, no nonsense. Anyone who leads with bring proof has been lied to enough to develop healthy skepticism. Murphy's Diner looked like it hasn't been updated since 1987. Red vinyl booths with duct tape, a jukebox playing 70s songs, a waitress who'd seen everything. The coffee tasted like it was brewed during the Reagan administration, but it was cheap and they didn't rush you. I brought my tablet loaded with screenshots, receipts, and photos, organized chronologically. Amanda walked in at exactly 10. We locked eyes immediately. That way people do when meeting internet strangers wondering if they're about to have coffee or become a true crime episode. She looked more tired than her profile suggested. Dark circles makeup couldn't hide. She slid into the booth without introducing herself. Show me. I turned my tablet around, starting with restaurant receipts. She studied each image like reading a manual, nodding occasionally. The steakhouse, she said, pointing. He told me he was taking a client there. Business dinner for someone from out of town. What date? March 22nd. My wife said she was working late on a campaign pitch. He was supposed to be in Dallas that week, she said quietly, scrolling. When she got to the hotel receipt, she stopped. This one. He called me from the hotel in Dallas to say goodnight to our daughter. I heard traffic in the background and thought it was weird because he said he was in his room, but She trailed off, swallowing hard. Convinced yourself you were imagining things, I finished. Yeah, I did that for 6 months. Turns out our imaginations were just really good at pattern recognition. She looked up, and I saw my own exhaustion reflected back. We were 2 people gaslit so thoroughly we'd started questioning our sanity. When I showed her the photo of Nicole and Brandon at that business dinner, Amanda laughed, but it was crying in disguise. He said he was in Dallas. I'm such an idiot. You're not an idiot, I said. You're someone who trusted the person you married. That's how it's supposed to work. They're the idiots for throwing it away. We exchanged numbers and sat for another hour drinking bad coffee, trading stories about red flags we'd ignored, lies we'd believed. We didn't plan anything specific. Just knowing someone else understood was enough. The Monday after meeting Amanda, I showed up at home with flowers from that expensive florist Nicole always pointed at wistfully. $30 for roses that'll die in a week. The look on Nicole's face was priceless. Confusion, suspicion, and fear mixed together. What's this for? Does a man need a reason to buy his wife flowers? I just wanted to remind you I appreciate you. All those late nights working, all the effort. I don't say it enough, but I'm proud of you, babe. The word babe came out smooth as butter. I should have been a politician. Apparently, I had talent for lying when properly motivated by betrayal. She actually teared up, holding the flowers like I just proposed again, instead of setting the stage for the greatest gotcha moment since Maury started doing paternity tests. That's really sweet, Jason. I've been feeling disconnected from you lately, and this means a lot. The irony of her saying we'd been disconnected while actively connecting with Brandon in hotel rooms wasn't lost on me, but I just smiled and suggested ordering Thai food. For 2 weeks, I was husband of the year. Cooked dinner when she worked late, never asked suspicious questions, complimented her new haircut, even though I'd found a text from Brandon saying he loved her hair longer, pretended to care about her team retreat. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I executed Operation Financial Independence. I'd consulted with lawyer Jennifer Chun, who took one look at my evidence and said, "Oh, honey," in equal parts sympathy and professional excitement. Documentation is everything in divorce proceedings, and I had enough to wallpaper our bedroom. Jennifer helped me understand that anything I did with assets needed to be careful, strategic, and legal. So I slowly transferred my half of joint accounts plus extra to cover what she'd spent on extracurriculars, changed passwords on my accounts, switched utilities to my name alone. Then my real estate attorney buddy Dave discovered our house was actually only in my name because Nicole had terrible credit when we bought it. She'd been making mortgage payments, sure, but legally the house was mine. Was this morally gray? Maybe. Did I care? Absolutely not. She wanted to play games. I'd learned the rule book. The beautiful part was watching her relax. Every compliment, every dinner, every time I kissed her goodnight without asking where she'd really been, she loosened up, believing she was getting away with it. She got comfortable, and comfortable people make mistakes. They get sloppy, schedule romantic getaways on work calendars that sync to shared iPads they forgot about. Which is how I discovered her next business trip. Thursday morning, checking our grocery list on the iPad, a calendar notification popped up. Phoenix Conference, 3 days. Next weekend, Friday through Sunday. Location, Fairmont, Scottsdale. I Googled it. 5-star resort, spa, golf, romantic dinners overlooking the desert. Real business conference vibes. Definitely not for PowerPoint presentations about marketing strategies. That evening, Nicole brought up Phoenix. So, I have to go to Phoenix next weekend. Conference about digital marketing trends, mandatory attendance. Super boring. I nodded sympathetically, squeezing her hand. That's tough, babe. But Phoenix is beautiful this time of year. Try to enjoy it between sessions, maybe get a spa treatment, expense it to the company. You work so hard you deserve relaxation. She smiled back, relief in her eyes. Permission granted, guilt absolved, husband successfully deceived. You're the best. Some guys would be upset about their wife traveling so much, but you just get it. I understand a lot of things, I said, the truest statement I'd made in weeks. I just want you to be happy, Nicole, whatever makes you happy. The double meaning sailed over her head. After dinner, while she was upstairs packing 5 days early, I booked a flight. Same airline, same flight, same destination, different name on the ticket. I'm listed as Jason Anthony Martinez on my license. Bought the ticket as J.A. Martinez. Friday through Sunday, Phoenix. Booked a Holiday Inn 10 minutes from her resort because I'm practical and the Fairmont would bankrupt me. Rented a car, packed my good camera with the zoom lens that could photograph a license plate across a parking lot. The morning she left, I drove her to the airport, loaded her suitcase, noticed she'd packed the black dress Brandon mentioned in his email, kissed her goodbye at departures. Have fun at your conference. Don't forget to expense the champagne. You've earned it. She laughed, kissed me back, walked into the airport with her suitcase and lies, completely unaware that in 6 hours I'd be on a plane right behind her, watching her entire double life collapse with professional quality photographic evidence. She smiled at me through the airport window, waving before disappearing. That smile was someone who thought they'd won, who believed they were getting away with everything, who had no idea the trap was already set. I smiled back, waved, got in my truck, and drove home to finish packing. Game on. There's something surreal about sitting 4 rows behind your wife on a plane while she's heading to meet her lover. Nicole was in seat 13C, window seat. I'd waited until final boarding, wearing a baseball cap pulled low and sunglasses indoors. I spent 20 minutes pretending to read a Sky Mall magazine while occasionally glancing at Nicole's head 4 rows ahead. She was texting someone, phone glow reflected in the window. I bet my entire tool collection it was Brandon. The guy next to me tried small talk. Business or pleasure? A little bit of both, I said, accurate since catching my wife cheating was giving me dark pleasure. Sales conference, he sighed. Third one this quarter. My wife thinks I'm having an affair with all these trips. I keep telling her, honey, if I was having an affair, I'd pick somewhere more exciting than Phoenix. I nearly choked on my ginger ale. Yeah. People who have affairs in Phoenix probably deserve whatever's coming to them. We landed, and came the awkward shuffle of everyone standing to grab bags. I stayed seated, watched Nicole grab her bag and walk off without looking back. I followed at a distance, keeping 15 people between us. Phoenix Sky Harbor is huge. Lots of crowds to blend into. That's where I saw him. Brandon Henderson in the flesh, standing by baggage claim. Taller than expected from photos, maybe 6'2", gym fit build. He wore khakis and a button-down with rolled sleeves, and his face lit up when he saw Nicole in a way that made me want to punch him and maybe cry because that's how he used to look at me before everything got cold. She practically ran to him, heels clicking, and he caught her in a hug that lifted her off the ground. They kissed right there, the kind that makes other people look away, the kind I hadn't gotten from her in 2 years. I stood 20 feet away behind a support column taking pictures with my phone. My hands were shaking, trembling like I'd had too much coffee. I took a breath and kept photographing. Wide shots, close-ups, different angles, professional documentation of my marriage ending in Terminal 4. They collected bags and walked toward the exit holding hands. I followed to the parking garage, watched Brandon open the passenger door of a rented Mercedes. I picked up my basic rental sedan and followed. The Fairmont was sprawling and luxurious. Palm trees, fountains, valet parking. I watched from the visitor lot as they checked in, as the bellhop took their bags. I zoomed in with my camera and caught the name on registration, Mr. and Mrs. Harris. Harris. Not even creative, just generic fake married couple name. The audacity was sad and predictable. I took 47 photos, 47 pieces of evidence, each clearer than the last. Brandon and Nicole entering the hotel at check-in, his hand on the small of her back, her leaning into him, the bellhop leading them toward what I'd later learn was the honeymoon suite. I sat in my car for 30 minutes staring at my camera display, scrolling through photos like they'd change if I looked enough times. They didn't change, just stayed there, permanent and undeniable. Then I opened a new text to Amanda Henderson, attached all 47 photos, and hit send. No caption needed. The next morning, I relocated to a cafe called Desert Bloom with better coffee and a clear view of the Fairmont entrance. I sat at a window table, ordered something complicated with oat milk and an extra shot. Around 9, my phone buzzed. Amanda. Just sent him screenshots. He's calling, but I'm not answering. How you holding up? I responded with a thumbs up. I was contemplating more coffee when I saw her. Nicole walking through the Fairmont lobby, visible through glass doors, moving fast with her phone pressed to her ear. Face doing that thing when she's trying very hard not to panic. Her free hand gestured wildly. I watched her pace for 2 minutes, still on the phone, expression cycling through the 5 stages of oh crap. Then she hung up, stood there looking at her phone like it had betrayed her, and started walking. Not back toward elevators, but toward the exit, toward the cafe, toward me. She walked into Desert Bloom, scanning the cafe with intensity. When her eyes landed on me sitting there with my avocado toast and coffee and baseball cap, she froze. Mouth opened, closed, opened again. Jason, what are you doing here? I took a sip of coffee, slow, savoring both the oat milk and the moment. Oh, just thought I'd try the Lobster. Everyone's been raving about it. Figured I'd come see what all the fuss was about. Her face went through several color changes. Her phone buzzed, loud enough I could hear it. She glanced down and I watched the color drain from her face. Amanda had perfect timing. What did you do? Nicole's voice came out strangled. Jason, what did you do? I grinned. The moment was too perfect. Nothing much, just finally gave you the transparency you always said we needed. That whole communication is key thing from therapy. Turns out you were right. So I communicated with Brandon's wife, shared some photos from my Phoenix vacation, really opened up about my feelings. Very therapeutic, actually. She dropped into the chair across from me, collapsed like her legs stopped working. You followed me here? You've been watching us? That's crazy, Jason. That's stalker behavior. Stalker behavior. Interesting take. I'd call it evidence gathering, confirming that my wife is a lying cheater spending our money on hotel rooms with her coworker. But sure, let's call me the crazy one. Her phone buzzed again and again, messages piling up. Amanda had a lot to say. This isn't how I wanted you to find out, she said. I was going to tell you eventually, when the time was right. Oh, absolutely. Nothing says right time like checking into a hotel under a fake name for a romantic weekend. Classic timing. Tears streamed down her face. Part of me, a small, stupid part that remembered when I loved this woman, felt bad. But the larger part that spent months being gaslit felt absolutely nothing. I never meant to hurt you, she said. What people always say when they've been hurting you intentionally for months. I love you, Jason. This thing with Brandon, it's different. It's exciting and convenient and expensive, considering you've been using our joint account to fund it. Yeah, I noticed. All those team dinners that cost $400. I've got a spreadsheet, Nicole, color-coded. Jennifer, my lawyer, was extremely impressed with my organizational skills. Said it was some of the best documentation she'd seen in 15 years. So thanks. You helped me discover I have real talent for forensic accounting. Her face got paler. You have a lawyer already? You've been planning this? Planning, Nicole? I haven't been planning anything. I've been reacting, responding, doing what any normal person does when they realize their spouse is cheating. Gathering evidence, protecting my assets, making sure when this falls apart, I'm not the one left holding the bag. You planned this. You and Brandon with your fake business trips and Mr. and Mrs. Harris routine. I just documented it. She reached across the table like she'd grabbed my hand, thought better of it, pulled back. We can fix this. We can go to therapy, work through it. People recover from affairs. We can get divorced, I said flatly, pulling an envelope from my jacket and sliding it across the table. Here, I brought you something. Think of it as a souvenir from Phoenix. She stared at the envelope. What is this? Freedom. Open it. Her hands shook as she slid out the papers. Divorce documents, professionally printed, legally binding, already signed. I don't understand. These are signed by both of us. When did I... She stopped, eyes going wide. The tax forms. You said you needed me to sign tax forms 4 months ago. I needed you to sign documents. I may have been vague about which documents. These are divorce papers, Nicole. You signed them in June. They're notarized, witnessed, and, according to Jennifer, completely legally binding in our state. You've been efficiently processing your own divorce for months. That's not legal, her voice rose. You can't trick someone into signing divorce papers. That's fraud or coercion. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone showing a voice memo dated June 15th. It's completely legal as long as the person signing had mental capacity and did so of their own free will, which you did because I recorded our conversation. You were in a great mood. And you literally said, quote, whatever you need me to sign, babe, just leave it on the counter. Then you signed without reading. Jennifer says that's on you. Always read before you sign, Nicole. Basic adulting. She looked like she'd be sick. You can't do this. The house, the accounts, everything we built together. The house is in my name. Remember when we bought it and your credit was terrible? We put everything in my name. You've been contributing to the mortgage, sure, but legally it's my house. The accounts are split. I moved my half plus what you spent on extracurriculars with Brandon. Your car is yours, my truck is mine, and the only thing we need to divide is furniture, which you can have most of. I never liked that couch anyway. Her phone started ringing, Brandon's name flashing with a photo of them she'd saved as his contact picture. She hit decline, but it rang again. I need to take this, she said, standing so fast her chair scraped the floor. Sure, go ahead, tell Brandon I said hi. Oh, and that his wife already contacted his company's HR department with screenshots of his expense reports. Apparently those luxury dinners and hotel rooms weren't actually approved business expenses, and his boss is very interested in discussing his creative accounting. She looked at me like I'd burned down her house. You didn't. I didn't. Amanda did. She's surprisingly resourceful when motivated by betrayal. We've been comparing notes. The phone kept ringing. She kept staring at me like I'd transformed into someone she didn't recognize. I have to go, she said finally, hollow. Actually, we're done, I said, gesturing to the divorce papers. That's literally the legal definition of being done. But your lawyer can call my lawyer. Jennifer's very good. You should probably get a lawyer too. You're going to need it. She grabbed the papers, shoved them back in the envelope with shaking hands, and walked out. I watched through the window as she stood on the sidewalk, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing wildly while presumably explaining to Brandon how her husband had just destroyed both their lives over avocado toast. I sat there for another 20 minutes, finished breakfast, ordered one more coffee because why not? I'd expected vindication, triumph, maybe joy. What I felt instead was tired, bone-deep exhausted, not sad, not angry, just done, ready to close this chapter and move on. My phone buzzed. Amanda. Brandon just called me. Crying. This is the best day ever. Thank you for existing. I smiled, texted back. Same to you. Coffee next week? Absolutely. First round's on me. I left a generous tip and walked out into the brutally hot Phoenix sun. My flight home was that evening, and I had a business to run, a house to enjoy in peace, and a divorce to finalize. Nicole could have Phoenix, the Fairmont, and Brandon. I was going home. A month later, the house was quiet. Peaceful quiet. Not lonely quiet. Somewhere between changing the locks and realizing I could eat cereal for dinner without judgment, I'd started going to a cafe after work. That's where I met Lucy, a waitress with a crooked smile and laugh that made bad days survivable. She didn't know my story, didn't ask, just poured coffee and said, "You look like a man who needs pancakes." She wasn't wrong. Nicole called once, crying. Brandon dumped her. She was moving into a studio apartment. I told her, "You always wanted something minimalist." We both laughed. Well, I did. Now when people ask what happened to my marriage, I say my wife diversified her portfolio, unfortunately emotionally and physically. Sitting on my porch watching the sunset, I realized revenge doesn't always need fire. Sometimes it just needs Wi-Fi, patience, and a good sense of humor. Sometimes it needs a lawyer named Jennifer and a betrayed spouse named Amanda who becomes your unlikely friend. Sometimes karma doesn't strike like lightning. Sometimes it just quietly changes the locks while you're busy living your best life. And honestly, that's even better.